Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, it is with great pleasure that I join you on this very special occasion in which we are not only celebrating another big step forward in the Sustainable Stock Exchanges initiative, but we're also doing so against the backdrop of a year that will in many respects be a defining year for the Sustainable Development Agenda. As some of you may be aware, we have 4 summits that are taking place this year under the auspices of the United Nations. The first one already behind us on disaster risk reduction. The next major event, and central also to the theme that all of you are very interested and engaged in, the Financing for Development Summit in Addis Ababa, followed by the New York Summit on the post-2015 development agenda and the adoption of a new set of sustainable development goals that will shape the course and discourse around development in virtually every country across the planet for years to come. And finally, the Climate Conference of the Parties in Paris in December. In all of these 4 events, one thing keeps on recurring as a major theme. We know today what the science is, what the practice is, and also the development aspirations of countries and communities are. We know that we have technologies available, that we have solutions to some of the challenges, be they global warming, be they infrastructure development, be they greater sustainability and resource efficiency in our industrial systems, more sustainable urban infrastructure development. All of these are knocking on the doors, and we know that with the underlying investments of around 5 trillion in infrastructure every year for the coming foreseeable years and future, there is also an increasingly obvious and documented need to try and introduce into the DNA of investment into our economy that strand which will ensure that sustainability, or as we refer to it in Europe, the transition towards a green economy, becomes part of the investment profile. The challenge of financing, both in absolute terms but also in the specific domain of trying to introduce greater resource efficiency, less polluting technologies, restoring and maintaining the ecological infrastructure and the natural capital of our economies, has become a priority as never before. Virtually every scientific indicator that we have about sustainability issues on our planet today is still pointing, at the aggregate level at least, in the wrong direction. Whether it is the footprint of industrialization and urbanization, where air pollution is today responsible for over 7 million premature deaths simply from the sources of indoor and outdoor pollution. Whether it is the loss of arable land, whether it is the overexploitation of our marine resources, or whether it is the loss of forest cover and biodiversity and ecosystem services. Our economies, in the accelerated process of development and infrastructure development, are often overlooking that the ecological infrastructure that underpins our communities and our economies, and ultimately also the global economy, is being depleted. Our ability to change this trajectory is what has been the focus of our work in UNEP when we are addressing the issue of a transition towards a green economy. And within that context, it has become ever more clear that it is not only the capacity of the public sector of governments to mobilize finance that will define our ability to respond. Indeed, it is becoming ever more obvious that it is in the financial and capital markets, the private sector investments, the corporate approach to these issues, that the greatest opportunity for investing in the future lies. It is therefore not only timely that we are meeting once again in Bangkok to look at the issue of sustainable stock exchanges, celebrate the ever-increasing number of stock exchanges that have joined this Sustainable Stock Exchange initiative launched by Secretary General Ban Ki-moon in 2009, but also to deepen the capacity of markets through the role that stock exchanges play to have more transparency, more corporate accountability, and ultimately more effective markets within which investors and those seeking capital for investment are able to transact. The partnership that was launched with UNCTAD and our partners, the Global Compact, and the Principles for Responsible Investment, alongside UNEP-FI, has been an extremely successful partnership, and we are very grateful for both the support, the commitment, and the buy-in that we have seen from so many stock exchanges across the world. As we look forward to the challenge of financing sustainable development, it is quite obvious that we have to evolve our financial system and our financial markets. What is often considered to be almost akin to the laws of gravity, namely how markets price goods, services, is by now also recognized as having many black spots. We know that realistic pricing of the impact of pollution, of carbon dioxide emissions, or indeed of other pollutants in our economies have often not been registered. Equally, the invisibility of the drawdown of our natural capital does not appear in systems of national accounting until it is made explicit. To correct the pricing in our markets, to also make the risk profile of companies and investors more explicit to the investment markets and therefore through the stock exchanges of a future profile of an industry, of a technology, or indeed of an entire market, is one opportunity to ensure that we have more effective, more stable, and also more sustainable markets in the future. I would like to think that in our collaboration we have not only broken new ground, we have demonstrated of how financial systems can converge also with the agenda of sustainable development. This is not to blur the lines between public policy making and the role of government and that of markets, entrepreneurs and investors. But unless we can work more effectively hand in hand and ensure that the financial capital, our financial economy, is in future going to be more aligned also with the real economy and, if you wish, the real sustainable development pathways of our countries, if we do not succeed in making that convergence become more obvious, more relevant and also more effective, then indeed we will see an increasingly conflictual relationship between objectives that we define through elections in our parliaments or indeed through international treaties under the auspices of the UN and where the economy is heading. It is in the convergence, in the synergies and also in the shaping of a future financial system that we have enormous opportunity to make 2015 a year in which finance is not only defined as a constraint or a challenge, but is indeed recognized as a tremendous opportunity. Stock exchanges will, I'm sure, play a significant role in enabling that to happen, and for that I'm very grateful and commit the United Nations Environment Programme alongside our other partners in continuing to deepen both that partnership and the front lines and frontiers of this cooperation. Thank you very much.